day I first met the college kid Stella Vance was sponsoring, I had just chased down a train in my dress shoes to sign a contract. Seeing the sweat on my brow, Mark shot me a critical up and down look, pouting with displeasure. "Stella, is this your star executive assistant? Looks like he just rolled out of someone's bed. A boy toy who signs deals with his body, maybe?" My professional composure was tested like never before. My calm expression almost cracked. The stray dogs rooting through trash cans at dawn would call me the king of the grind. Recruiters had offered me 8 figures to jump ship, and here was someone calling me the boss's bed warmer. I turned and dialed a number. "Dad, I'm done with this learning the ropes thing. As soon as this project is finished, I'm coming back to take over the family business." Before I could even explain, Mark continued his tirade. "An empty suit like you, all flash and no substance, must have slept his way into the EA position. Stella, you have to fire him. Having trash like this in the company ruins the culture. Make room for people who actually work hard." Stella frowned and tried to placate him. "Mark, you've got it all wrong. I hired Leo at a high salary. His professional abilities are on par with my own." Her normally sharp mind seemed to have been clouded by love. She was completely oblivious to Mark's hostility toward me. "Leo has been my executive assistant for 3 years, and his skills are impeccable. From now on, he'll be supervising your internship. You should learn from him." Mark lifted his chin, looking at me with disdain. "I graduated from UCLA. What third-rate college did he go to that he thinks he can teach me?" The atmosphere froze. He smugly assumed my silence was because I was intimidated. Finally, Stella broke the silence. "Leo has a PhD from MIT. Mark, you need to be more humble." Mark's handsome face flushed red, and he muttered defiantly, "It's just a foreign university. You can buy a degree like that. What's he showing off for?" He shook Stella's arm, his voice tinged with grievance. "Well, I'm still going to keep a close eye on him, so he doesn't get any chance to seduce you." He saw himself as the hero of a story who, after countless trials, would finally win the beautiful maiden's heart. And I was the villain standing in the way of his love. Stella rubbed her temples, her eyes pleading with me for help. I got the message instantly. Solving the boss's problems was part of my job. I kept a smile on my face and said gently to Mark, "Mr. Mark, you've misunderstood. Ms. Vance and I have a purely professional relationship. If you don't believe me, I can pull up my employment contract and our chat logs for you to review." Stella also took the opportunity to soothe him. "Mark, stop making a scene. Go wait for me in the lounge. I'll be there as soon as I finish signing this contract." Mark was reluctantly persuaded to leave, but not before shooting me a vicious glare. Stella stopped me, her tone complicated. "I'm sorry you have to deal with this. Starting this month, I'm doubling your salary." As I left the office, Mark shot me a contemptuous look and said loudly, "Leo, you should change out of those tight clothes. Who are you trying to seduce? Dressing so provocatively." I looked down at my well-tailored but classic shirt and trousers, completely baffled. Before I could respond, he continued his accusations. "You work out to get a good body and then deliberately wear form-fitting clothes. You're just dying for people to stare, aren't you? Even if you're just a pretty face, you should have some decency at the office." This was my standard client-facing attire. How could he describe it so crudely? Besides, what kind of pretty face pulls all-nighters writing project proposals until the dark circles under his eyes are almost impossible to hide? Seeing Mark's relentless pestering, Stella sighed helplessly. "Leo, starting tomorrow, please wear a looser-fitting suit to work." I glanced at the 108-degree sun outside and nodded without expression. It would be a lie to say I didn't feel a sting of bitterness. Years ago, when I was distraught over my mother's death, I nearly fell into the water, and she saved me. That's why, when it came time to pay my dues before inheriting the family business, I chose to come to her company. Even though her family's company was failing back then, I stood by Stella through the hard times and helped bring it back from the brink. We were boss and subordinate, best friends and confidants. She had even once laughed and said that if we were both still single at 30, she would marry me and we'd have a huge wedding. I didn't take it seriously, but now, I suddenly felt she wasn't as brilliant as I remembered. Stella invited the CEO of Stellar Group to a reception at a top-tier private club. As the core leader of the project, I was also invited to attend. What I didn't expect was to see Mark there too. He was dressed in flashy designer streetwear, sitting intimately next to Stella. As I was discussing project details, Stella nodded in agreement. Mark, probably feeling ignored, remarked sarcastically, "Leo is so impressive, helping Stella land such a huge project. I bet you sealed the deal by drinking with all the bosses, one glass after another. Thanks for sacrificing so much for our company." The moment he finished, the private room fell silent. I spoke calmly. "You're joking, Mark. This project moved forward thanks to the decisiveness of Ms. Vance and the other executives, as well as our team's professional proposal." Mark gave a suggestive smile. "I doubt that. A guy as capable as you must have been capable in other ways, too. You must be a great drinker. Stop playing coy and have a few rounds with the executives." He was making crude, inappropriate jokes without any restraint. This wasn't just childish anymore, it was idiotic. Stella's brow furrowed. "Mark, stop it." He huffed petulantly, picked up a glass of wine, and held it out to me. "Stella, are you falling for this pretty boy? Why are you protecting him from having a few drinks?" With that, he pretended to stumble, and the wine in the glass spilled all over my chest. The cold liquid instantly soaked through the fabric, revealing the firm contours of my chest. He feigned a gasp, barely able to suppress the malicious grin on his face. "Oh, Leo," my hand slipped. "I'm so sorry. Anyway, you have to drink with everyone later, so what's the difference if you're a little wet? It'll liven things up." The taunts and slander in his words were exceptionally cutting, as if I were some degenerate who willingly sold himself out. Everyone had assumed Stella and I were more than friends but not quite lovers. But only I knew that I truly saw her as a trusted partner, someone I could count on completely. When the company's cash flow broke, I once worked for months on end, drinking myself into stomach bleeding to secure an investment. And when I was caught in an earthquake on a business trip, she had rushed into the disaster zone against the flow of evacuees to find me. Even my own father was surprised that someone as naturally suspicious as me could trust another person so deeply. But now, she hadn't done a single thing to stop Mark's classless behavior. I looked down at the mess on my chest, my gaze turning cold. A few of the business partners started to smooth things over. "Mark, the joke has gone too far. Leo is our valued partner, not here to be your entertainment. Ms. Vance, you need to get your people in line. Leo is the kind of talent we've been trying to poach for ages. You'd better appreciate him, Ms. Vance." The mockery Mark had expected didn't materialize. Instead, everyone was affirming my professionalism. I looked up at Mark and chuckled softly. "Since you're so eager for a drink, I'll join you." I had the waiter bring 2 large tumblers and filled them to the brim with top-shelf whiskey. Mark's face was a mask of shock as he watched me down the full glass of strong liquor without flinching. I pushed the other glass toward him. "I'm done. Don't tell me you're scared, Mark. When I was 3, I snuck into my father's wine cellar at our French estate and polished off a whole bottle of Lafite he'd been saving. This little bit of whiskey was nothing." Stella shot me a displeased look and said in a low voice, "Leo, stop joking around. Nobody can drink like that without getting drunk." The moment she said it, I knew she was going to protect Mark. I put down my glass, nodded to the executives, and said politely, "Excuse me, I need to go clean up." Mark followed me into the restroom. "Leo, you must hate my guts, don't you? You've been by Stella's side for so long and couldn't win her heart. You're just a toy to keep her bed warm." Seeing I couldn't be bothered to respond, Mark angrily tried to push me over. I instinctively dodged, and he stumbled forward, then raised his hand and slapped himself across the face. I was stunned, watching as Mark ran out with tears welling in his red eyes. This is bad, I thought, following him back into the private room just as he threw himself into Stella's arms. "Stella, Leo hit me. I just wanted to go to the bathroom to apologize to him, but he called me your kept man and said I wasn't good enough for you." Stella froze, her eyes filled with shock and confusion as she looked at me. With his reddened eyes, He looked so pathetic, yet the words coming out of his mouth were a complete fabrication. Stella's brow furrowed as she looked at the crying boy in her arms, then asked uncertainly, "Leo, what really happened?" I laughed in exasperation and sighed. "Ms. Vance, you really believe such a clumsy setup? We weren't the only ones in the restroom just now. Mrs. Wallace from Apex Holdings was there too. Why don't you go ask her?" Mark's whining stopped abruptly, his face turning deathly pale. "Stella, men know men. He's only close to you because he has ulterior motives. Leo looks down on me. He wants to be your man." Mark's words were making her flustered. She looked at me with a mix of scrutiny and disappointment. "Mark is still young and immature. Even if he said something wrong, you shouldn't have hit him." I remembered when a rival company paid someone to frame me during a business war. Back then, Stella had stood by my side without hesitation, declaring that she would always believe me. It seemed that even the most unbreakable partnership couldn't withstand her being blinded by love. Seeing my silence, Stella chose to smooth things over. She wrapped a comforting arm around Mark's shoulder, her voice weary. "Leo, it's a small matter. Do you have to make such an ugly scene in front of everyone? You're my employee. You should know better. Do your job, and stop thinking about things that don't belong to you. This ends now. I want a written apology on my desk tomorrow." With that, she turned and left, taking the still sniffling Mark with her. I stood there watching them leave and let out a long breath. Mr. Lee, an associate I knew well, handed me a cup of tea, his words pointed. "A talent like you, Leo, why do you put up with these baseless accusations? The doors at Stellar Group are always open for you." For some reason, an image of the 20-year-old Stella flashed before my eyes. A spirited young woman, unafraid even as her company was on the verge of collapse. Her gaze was resolute as she pointed to the tallest skyscraper in the city. "Leo, I will make this company a name people respect again." She had achieved it, but in doing so, she had become someone I no longer recognized. She couldn't tell right from wrong, and she was no longer qualified to be my partner. I took out my phone and sent a text to my father. "Cancel the partnership with Vance Industries next week. I'll announce it myself at the press conference." The signing ceremony with Stellar Group was held in the company conference room, with cameras and reporters aimed at the stage. I meticulously checked the agenda and contract details, ensuring everything was perfect. This was my last project at Vance Industries, and I had to see it through to a clean finish. Stella and Mark arrived together. Mark was dressed to the nines today in custom designer clothes, as if he wanted to tattoo man of the house on his forehead. The signing ceremony proceeded smoothly until the final step, which required projecting the final version of the contract onto the big screen for signatures. Mark eagerly stepped forward to run the presentation. But the next second, a series of lewd photos appeared on the screen. The man in the photos, who had a face identical to mine, was naked and entangled with different women in obscene poses. The conference room fell silent, then erupted in an uproar. Mark sobbed in feigned panic. "I pressed the wrong button by mistake. Leo, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you had so many private photos stored on your computer." He was pretending to apologize while slinging mud, confirming that these photos were mine. At the very end, he even displayed a forged medical report. My name was written on it, and the diagnosis was an unspeakable STD. Mark gasped dramatically. "Leo, I'd heard your private life was extremely chaotic, but I didn't think it was true. You won't infect the whole business community, will you?" He was using such a low-life tactic to ruin my reputation. I was overwhelmed by a massive sense of humiliation. Stella, her face ashen, ordered the staff to turn off the screen, but the whispers and contemptuous glances in the room were like knives stabbing at me. I didn't realize Leo was so open-minded in private. He's got a great body. No wonder he climbed the ladder so fast. He has his special methods. He's disgraced Ms. Vance and the entire company. He really is just a cheap whore who slept his way to the top. The ceremony ended abruptly. I walked back to my office with my spine straight, ignoring the murmurs. I didn't have many personal belongings, mostly just files and work notebooks. I calmly packed them into a box, There was nothing left here to hold on to. The office door was pushed open. Mark swaggered in, chin held high with triumph. Packing up to get lost already? How does it feel to be completely disgraced? His fingers brushed across a trophy I cherished on my desk. It was the Emerging Entrepreneur of the Year award Stella and I had won together when we brought the company back from the brink of bankruptcy. She had insisted on having my name engraved on it too, saying half the credit belonged to me. Mark picked up the crystal trophy, a malicious grin on his face. Still keeping this piece of junk? You're not hoping Stella will feel nostalgic, are you? As he spoke, he made a motion to smash it on the ground. My pupils contracted, and I instinctively took a step forward to stop him. Put it down. Ms. Vance and I are just colleagues. He raised the trophy and slammed it into my forehead. A sharp pain shot through my head, and warm blood instantly blurred my vision. When Stella rushed in at the sound of the crash, Mark was already on the floor, crying out. Stella, Leo said I was the one who embarrassed him, and he went crazy trying to beat me up. Stella seemed not to see the gruesome wound on my head or the blood streaming down my face. She reprimanded me. Leo, what are you trying to do now? Haven't you made enough of a fool of yourself today? Report to the janitorial department tomorrow. I think you need to be taught a lesson. The company doesn't lack talent now. Don't think we can't survive without you. I was so numb I couldn't even feel disappointment. I said flatly, don't trouble yourself, Ms. Vance. Quit. I wish you and Mark a long and happy life together. With that, I picked up my box and walked out of the place where I had fought for 5 years, without a single look back. The biggest difference between Stella and me is that I would never let some fleeting emotion interfere with my career. The next day was the press conference for the major partnership announcement between Vance Industries and Davis Holdings. I appeared on site with a bandage on my forehead, dressed in a sharply tailored suit. When Mark saw me, he shrieked, Leo, how dare you show your face here? Are you trying to beg Stella for forgiveness? He waved at the nearby security guards. Get this fired piece of trash out of here. He doesn't belong here. Just then, my father walked over, surrounded by reporters and executives. I saw my good friend Kyle in the crowd, and he gave me a little wink. Mark reflexively plastered on a fawning smile. Mr. Davis, before he could finish, to his utter astonishment, my father smiled and extended a hand to me. I'd like to introduce everyone to my son, Leo Davis. He will be formally taking over as the CEO of Davis Holdings. The color drained from Mark's face as he stared at me in disbelief. Impossible. How could you be Mr. Davis's son? You're just a failure. Stella fired. I get it. You dared to hire actors to trick everyone. You really are a scheming, manipulative bastard. Stella's face was grim. She yanked her arm out of Mark's grasp. She wasn't an idiot like Mark before meeting him. She had been sharp and meticulous. How could the heir announced by the chairman of Davis Holdings himself be a fake? But Mark seemed trapped in a delusion of his own making, unable to accept my change in status. He pointed a finger at my nose and shrieked, You're just an assistant who slept his way to the top. Those filthy pictures of you are all over the internet, and you still have the nerve to put on an act? I see what this is. You're jealous of me and trying to use these despicable tactics to steal Stella away. His voice was shrill with agitation, and a low murmur rippled through the crowd. No wonder Leo was so capable. He was the prince of Davis Holdings, just paying his dues. Ms. Vance really misjudged this one. She offended a golden goose for the sake of a boy toy. I watched Mark's performance coldly and said in a low voice, Mark, paranoia is a disease. You should get it treated. The words hit him like a slap, and he shut his mouth in humiliation. I didn't look at him again. I turned to the media and announced clearly, in light of the management chaos at Vance Industries, as well as the severe damage to my personal reputation caused by its personnel, on behalf of Davis Holdings, I am announcing that all previously agreed upon partnership intentions with Vance Industries are hereby canceled, effective immediately. Stella swayed, looking at me in disbelief. This decision would be enough to cripple her company. She couldn't believe I would be so ruthless. She looked at me with pleading eyes. Leo, I was wrong to let you get hurt before. For the sake of the years we fought side by side, please give Vance Industries another chance. She thought favoring Mark was just a small mistake. That once it was cleared up, I would forgive her, just like I always had. Her face, which I once found beautiful, was now etched with nothing but desperation and calculation. I cut her off, my voice calm. Ms. Vance, we were only ever colleagues. What bond are you talking about? Your company isn't some small startup. Even if this partnership falls through, there's no need to cling to it and become a laughingstock. Hearing my words, her familiarity with me from our 5 years together made her instantly understand my meaning. She opened her mouth, but couldn't get a single word out. After a long moment, she finally asked hesitantly, Leo, will you ever come back? My words shattered all her hopes. Of course not. I used to think that even after I took over my family's company, we could form a powerful alliance. But now it's clear you are no longer qualified to be my partner. Stella looked as if all the strength had been drained from her. She staggered back a step, the light in her eyes completely gone. Mark, however, had recovered and glared at me viciously. Stella, don't beg him. We'll be fine even without the partnership with Davis Holdings. Stella looked at him with disgust, pushed him away, and strode out. But her posture lacked its former confidence. She just looked defeated. This was the path she chose. We weren't lovers, but we were close partners. She was the one who broke that balance, allowing the boy toy she kept to bully and suppress me. All I did was eliminate a potentially risky business partner. Cal came over to my side and joked, Congratulations, Leo, you finally passed your trial and returned. A few days later, I was in a video conference at home when I received an urgent call from Stella. Her voice was weak and pained. Leo, I'm having an asthma attack, and I can't find my inhaler. Ever since she'd been rushed to the ER once, I had always carried her medication with me. Even though I wanted nothing more to do with her, a life was on the line. I impatiently ended the meeting, grabbed my car keys and the medicine, and bolted out the door. The code to Stella's apartment hadn't changed. She was curled up on the sofa, struggling to breathe. I gave her the medicine and lit some calming incense. After a flurry of activity, her condition finally stabilized. I was about to leave when I ran into Mark coming back. He glared at me furiously. Leo, what are you doing here? And you're in your pajamas. Where's Stella? What did you do to her? I knew you had bad intentions, hiding your identity to become her assistant. I had come in such a hurry I didn't even change. Now I couldn't be bothered to deal with him. I tried to walk past, but he grabbed my arm tightly. You shameless bastard. The moment I'm not here, you come running over to seduce Stella. I forcefully shook his hand off, my face cold. Show some respect, Mark. Stella begged me to come save her. Or did you want her to die? His handsome face twisted in rage. Don't you lie to me. Stella is perfectly healthy. You're disgusting. Being in a woman's house dressed like that, I had completely lost my patience. I didn't want to waste another second on him and walked straight toward the door. My indifference infuriated Mark. He grabbed a fruit knife from the coffee table and lunged at me. You're not leaving. I'm going to ruin that face of yours today and see how you seduce Stella then. I hadn't expected him to pull a knife. I backed away, trying to reason with him. Put the knife down. Assault with a deadly weapon is a crime. But he just advanced, his face a mask of insanity. Stella will protect me. She wouldn't let me get arrested. Are you scared? Get on your knees and beg me. Slap yourself 100 times, and I'll let you go. The next second, he was kicked viciously to the ground, and the knife was snatched from his hand. Mark, are you insane? Stella had been woken up by our argument and had stumbled upon the terrifying scene. Mark whimpered and rubbed his wrist as he climbed up from the floor. Stella, he was bullying me. I was scared. That's why I grabbed the knife. I watched his seamless transition, marveling at his skill. Stella didn't even look at him. She rushed over to me, asking anxiously, Leo, are you okay? Did he hurt you? When I shook my head, she finally looked at Mark with disappointment. Look at yourself. What have you become? You're full of lies. You tried to injure someone. That's a crime. Don't you understand? When you were working part-time at the coffee shop, your eyes were so clear and bright. I sponsored your education because I wanted you to become someone who could walk alongside me. But after we got together, you became more and more arrogant and spoiled. If I hadn't donated money to your university, you wouldn't have even graduated. Mark, how did you turn into this? Mark was stunned by her outburst. He blinked and said, Stella, you're yelling at me for him. You don't believe me. Having detached herself emotionally, the rational Stella was no longer falling for his act. She cut him off sharply. Enough. I'm not blind. The flowers you bought caused my asthma attack. I called Leo in a panic to save my life. You will apologize to him right now. Mark screamed hysterically. No, I'm not wrong. Leo is just a lowlife trying to climb the social ladder. Stella closed her eyes. When she opened them again, her voice was resolute. It seems we really aren't right for each other. Leave. Don't come back again. As for the company, I'll have HR send you a termination letter. I thought that would be the last I saw of Mark. But 2 days later, I discovered I had severely underestimated him. 3 of the top 5 trending topics online were about me. Davis Air bullies coworker. Rich Air steals poor student's girlfriend. Leo Davis, the other man. I clicked on them. The original poster claimed to be an insider. He wrote a long post claiming I had used my status as a corporate heir to hide my identity and get close to Stella at her company. He painted me as a twisted rich kid who, spurned by Stella, became obsessed. The article said Stella didn't like me and had instead fallen in love with the pure and kind Mark. So, out of scorned love, I used my position to make Mark's life difficult, and finally, I used my family's power to force them apart at the press conference, breaking up the star-crossed lovers. Others chimed in the comments, saying they had seen me verbally abuse and even physically assault Mark at the office. Netizens who didn't know the truth were cursing me for being cruel and malicious. A few colleagues who knew me tried to speak up for me, but their comments were quickly drowned out in the flood of hate. Stella's call came through, too. Leo, I'm the one who brought this on you. I'm so sorry you're being slandered. Do you need me to cooperate with the company's legal department? I sighed. If you get involved now, it will only make it look more like I'm using my power to crush him. Mark says I'm a workplace bully who throws his weight around, right? Well, I'll let him taste his own medicine. But if this ends up affecting you, don't blame me. I had originally planned for a clean break. After all, Stella and I had fought side by side for years, and I didn't want to completely burn that bridge. But now, it seemed that wouldn't be possible. I didn't rush to issue a statement to refute the rumors that would only make me look guilty. After gathering all the evidence, I posted a long article from my verified X account. No sob stories or complaints, just a clear, chronological breakdown with supporting evidence. I explained that I joined Stella's company as part of my family's training program, with all the proper hiring documentation. News articles about me helping her bring the company back from the brink were publicly available online. I posted screenshots of some of my chat logs with Stella, which were all about work. The most boundary-crossing line was her joke about marrying me if we were single at 30, to which I had replied, "You should probably focus on taking the company public first." Anyone could see our relationship was purely professional. I also included screenshots of Stella complaining to me about Mark's immaturity and thanking me for my patience. At the end, I wrote, "My relationship with Miss Stella Vance has always been professional, and we have never crossed any boundaries. I have previously chosen not to pursue Mr. Mark's repeated provocations and slanderous behavior in the interest of peace. However, these recent false statements online have severely damaged my personal and my company's reputation. I will be pursuing legal action against him. The truth will speak for itself." As soon as the post went up, the narrative flipped instantly. Everyone was mocking Mark, calling him a drama queen with a Cinderella complex. Any rational person could see he had brought this on himself and was trying to drag me down with him. And I became the object of public sympathy. Some even joked about my hardship tour, a rich heir forced to grind like a wage slave. When the police found Mark in the cheap rental apartment he was living in, he was still hysterically cursing me, saying I had stolen everything from him and ruined his life. He never once thought he was in the wrong, blaming all his misfortunes on me. Such a selfish, twisted person was both hateful and pathetic. The news of the canceled partnership had already hit Vance Industries hard, straining its cash flow. Now, this scandal, involving the personal conduct of its management, made investors wary. On top of that, many former partners, knowing I had fallen out with the company, pulled back, making a bad situation worse. The company's stock price began to plummet. A few days later, financial news reported that several of the company's projects had stalled. Banks were calling in loans, and it was on the verge of bankruptcy. Stella had to sell off her shares. When I saw the news, I felt nothing. She was the one who protected him. She had to bear the consequences. All I did was bring the truth to light to protect myself. My life returned to normal as I busied myself with the affairs of the corporation. Not long after Vance Industries declared bankruptcy, I received a call from Stella. Her voice was weary, hoarse, and defeated. "Leo," she said my name, then fell silent. I didn't speak either. There was nothing left for us to talk about. Just as I was about to hang up, she spoke again, as if she had gathered all her strength. "Mark's gone. He was terrified after being released from custody. I've made things clear with him. He won't be coming back to the city. You called me just to tell me this?" Mark's drama was over. His appearance had only accelerated my inheritance of the family business. The only real impact was the rift it created between Stella and me. She paused, her tone complex, a mix of emotion and self-mockery. "I saw your recent investment news. You're as brilliant as ever. I'm sorry about what happened." I chuckled softly, my voice flat. "It's all in the past." Silence on the other end of the line again. For a moment, all I could hear was the faint sound of her breathing. Suddenly, Stella summoned her courage, her voice trembling almost imperceptibly. "Leo, and I'm just saying if there had been no Mark, could there have been even a small chance for us?" I cut her off, my voice firm. "There are no ifs, Stella. We were once great friends and work partners, but that's all it ever was. I'm very happy with my life now. I've already let go of the past." She let out a long sigh. "I understand. I wish you all the best." I paused for a second, then replied softly, "I hope you get back on your feet and find someone who truly loves you." Before she could reply, I hung up the phone. I put my phone down and walked to the massive floor-to-ceiling windows of my office. Looking out at the bustling city below, I let out a breath. The strange tightness in my chest finally began to fade, and I turned back to the project proposal on my desk. 6 months later, at an industry summit, I ran into Stella. She looked much thinner, and the fiery spirit in her eyes was gone. But she was with a gentle, intelligent-looking man dressed in a tasteful suit. Unlike Mark, he wasn't clinging to her like a limpet. They exchanged a few quiet words, looking like both work partners and a developing couple. Our eyes met, and we gave each other a polite nod, like simple acquaintances. No greeting, no small talk. As we passed each other, I heard the man next to her ask in a low, curious voice, "You know Mr. Davis? He's my idol." Stella's voice was calm. "He was once an incredibly brilliant partner of mine. I was the one who couldn't keep up." Hearing this, I didn't break my stride. Stella and I were not exes, nor were we enemies. The only relationship that had ever truly existed between us, in the end, was that of partners. I walked forward. There were new deals to close and new projects to launch. My future and my career were waiting for me,